How's it going, Eliminators? Today we're going to be talking about a little packet of grease that comes with an MTD air filter, what you're going to want to do with that, but more specifically, what you're not going to want to do with that little packet of grease. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So today in the shop, I have a Troy-Bilt TB30R made by MTD. This is a rear engine riding lawnmower, very similar to the Cub Cadet CC30s and the C30 Columbias, as well as the Craftsman. I believe it's an R1000. The mower came into the shop for a service and it has been serviced. The deck has been scraped out, blade sharpened and balanced. The oil and oil filter has been changed, as well as the fuel filter down there. And before installing the brand new air filter, today, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, I wanted to talk about this little pack of grease that comes with the air filter and what you're supposed to do with it. So in front of me, I have an air filter combo that includes the paper air filter element as well as the foam pre-filter. That's this piece out here that wraps around the air filter. Now the part number for this is a 937-05129. You'll see the MTD parts listing on screen now. This is an original MTD air filter, and in that product listing, you should notice that little tiny bag of grease that they sell with this air filter. Now, a lot of you older mechanics out there will probably be familiar with the technique called oiling your pre-filter. And basically what that is you take a little bit of 5W30 or 10W30 oil, a very, very light coating, and you put it on this foam pre-filter. And what that does is it helps catch all of the fine debris on the pre-filter so that you can just remove your pre-filter, rinse it out, re-oil it, and reuse it instead of replacing the more expensive paper air filter element more frequently. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because about 2 years ago, I had a customer that went to a local Cub Cadet dealer and bought one of those filters. And in that filter pack came this part here, and I'm going to try to get the number so you guys can see it. The part number for this is a 737-05131, and it is a 350 silicone. Now, my customer thought that this was used to oil the pre-filter. So what he did was he tore off the top of that and he put this into his hands, the palm of his hands, and then he took that and he rubbed down the pre-filter. Unfortunately, what he quickly found out was that it completely clogged the pre-filter and the engine was getting hardly any air because air will not go through a silicone grease. So what is this used for and why do they include it with the pre-filter? Well, the simple answer is this filter goes onto this boot right here. Now, MTD wants you to take this silicone. This is an applicator pack, and I should note that this is a not for sale item, meaning if you run this number into MTD's system, it does not come up. You cannot purchase this separately. It only comes with this air filter. So you rip off the top of that, you take this and you are going to apply, maybe to your finger to make it easier, the silicone grease around the carburetor intake elbow right there and on the back side of it as well. And what this silicone grease does is it prevents air and more specifically fine debris from getting through the area between the air filter and the carburetor intake elbow right there. And it's a very similar concept to anyone that's familiar with off-road riding of ATVs or dirt bikes. A lot of the guys would take petroleum jelly, commonly referred to as Vaseline, and they would put it along the base of the air filter and around the boot of the intake. And the petroleum jelly would essentially do the same thing as this silicone grease. It would prevent that fine debris from getting in between the air filter base and the hard plastic, because we have to keep in mind that these are going to be mass produced. So the quality control of these air filters might not be all that perfect, meaning this circle that you see here may not be a perfect circle. It also may be a few thousandths of an inch wider than the elbow there. And if we were to simply take this filter and push it on there, it might not have all that snug of a connection. So over here on the workbench, I've squeezed out a little bit and I am applying it to my finger, and I'm just lightly applying it to the inner edge of that filter there. What you're trying to prevent is a big glob from going inside of the paper element, because again, we don't want this stuff to get sucked into the engine and then we're just going to apply a little bit to the outside lip there. And same thing over here at the engine. We're just going to run that around. You don't have to glob it on. You can kind of wipe it on smooth, but if you see little bits like that getting onto the inside edge, just take your finger and wipe that off. So if you're curious as to what it looks like when I've applied it, pretty much like that. And then if we come over to the package, you guys can see I've used about half of what they've provided, so there's more than enough there for you guys to do 1 or 2 of these air filters. But if we look on the package here, you guys can see it is a 350 silicone, which you can buy at a store separately if you wanted to. Again, you don't have to go crazy with this stuff. You're just trying to use it to increase the seal between the air filter and the intake elbow. It locks in underneath. There's a little tab in there, but you're going to be pushing the front of the air filter down into that. So we're going to go in on an angle, push in and down at the same time. Simple as that. Again, this is silicone grease, so you could imagine that customer that put it on the pre-filter thinking, hey, that's going to be some type of grease to catch fine debris. It would hardly let air through. So in that case, we ended up ripping the pre-filter off. We couldn't wash the stuff out. It was real nasty. So he was able to use the air filter that he purchased, but I figured I wanted to do this video to get the info out there because there's absolutely no information available online as to what that silicone grease is. And there's no instructions provided with this air filter pack when you buy it from MTD as to what you're supposed to do with that grease. So I could assume things could get a little confusing for the average consumer. And I know I did mention the oiling of the pre-filter and how it was a common practice before. Filters nowadays, you're not going to have to because the paper element inside of the filters have gotten so much better due to them being able to weave a much finer fiber. So they filter a lot smaller debris. I believe these air filters filter anywhere from 3 to 5 micron. So they're very, very good at filtering fine debris. And the final piece of info I will give you is if you were thinking about oiling this pre-filter, you're not going to want to do it on this particular engine, which is referred to as the XP380. It will say that right on the back of the air filter there. These are commonly referred to as the T84 or the T90 Powermore engines. And I'll display a screenshot from the service manual. And at the bottom, it says specifically not to oil these filters. So in the event that you do put a small film of oil on the pre-filter, it could actually negatively affect the performance of this particular engine because it's not designed to run like that. So that little bit of oil on the pre-filter will make the engine run slightly richer, which means the air-fuel ratio is going to be changed. So you're going to be getting the same amount of fuel from your carburetor, but slightly less air from your air filter, resulting in a rich mixture. Well, it's going to wrap up today's video. I know some of you guys might have never seen that little packet of silicone grease. You may be buying an aftermarket filter. I'm not too sure. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anyone discuss that little packet of silicone grease that comes in that air filter. So I thought that would be a great video to get the info out to you guys. But with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, think about leaving me a thumbs up. You know, it really helps me out. You can click here to subscribe and click over here to watch one of my previous videos. I upload every single week, so be sure to stop on by next week, check channel for new content. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.